Oh, hey, howdy, hi, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch, and this over here is my teaching assistant, Andy. And today is Monday, and on my channel, it means it is Misheard History. And today's Misheard History topic is going to be the lost state of Franklin. I have a little bit of exciting news coming at the end of the video, so if you're interested in where I've been, upcoming projects, and that kind of stuff, check that out at the very end. But let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So this place went by many names: the state of Franklin, the Free Republic of Franklin, the Lost State of Franklin, and the state of Frankland. It was an unrecognized proposed state in what is now East Tennessee. Created in 1784, it was intended to be the 14th state in the new United States. It had been part of a territory owned by North Carolina that was offered to Congress to pay off debts related to the American War for Independence. It was novel in that it resulted in both a cession and secession. By that I mean, the government did not accept the cession offered by North Carolina, therefore it seceded from North Carolina. Franklin lasted about 4.5 years, at which point North Carolina reclaimed ownership of the area. If it had not been reclaimed, it would have been about 6,400 square miles of land, which is not a lot, but it beats out 3 states in size and would be about 6.5% of what would be the entirety of Tennessee. Based on the current population size of that part of Tennessee, it would boast nearly 1 million residents today. The desire for a new state was in regards to over-mountain towns. Those were towns that were over the Appalachian Mountains: North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. They wanted to be a separate state. So in 1784, a new state was proposed. The proposed boundary line of the state would have been southwestern Virginia, eastern Tennessee, parts of Georgia, and parts of what is now Kentucky and Alabama. There was plenty of support for this proposed state. However, the governor of Virginia and land speculator for Tennessee, Patrick Henry, was not fully on board. He opposed the loss of land from both Virginia and Kentucky, and as a result, he passed a law that forbade the creation of a state that intended to take land from Virginia. The state proposal was changed, and it was called Franklin, as support was sought from Benjamin Franklin. The new proposal did not have more success than the last one, as Kentucky wanted to be its own state, which it got to be 10 years later. It goes without saying that there was support for the state of Franklin, but the creation was more luck than hard work. After the American War of Independence concluded, there was a lot of debt. North Carolina put out a vote to give Congress 45,000 square miles, or 29 million acres of land, to help offset its war debts. The land offered up was the Allegheny Mountains, now called the Appalachian Mountains, and the Mississippi River. The people voted yes, but there was a stipulation in handing the land over. Congress would assume responsibility for the land for 2 years, which Congress was reluctant to do for various reasons. North Carolina was forced to reevaluate the situation, which it did once a new legislation was elected. Given that they were unable to get Congress to take the land in exchange for their debts, they had to weigh the perceived economic loss of potential real estate opportunities. This led them to rescind the offer to Congress and reclaim the territory. The government officials in North Carolina were not well received, and growing dissatisfaction led to another call for a separate state in 1784. On August 23rd, delegates from North Carolina counties, Washington, now Carter County, Sullivan, Spencer, now Hawkins County, and Greene, all of which were located in modern-day Tennessee, convened in the town of Jonesboro. They declared that the land to be separate and independent of North Carolina. A governing body had to be established, of course. John Sevier, Over-Mountain man and longtime advocate for a new state, reluctantly accepted the position of governor. Landon Carter was Speaker of the Senate, William Cage was first Speaker of the House of Representatives, David Campbell became Judge of Superior Court, Thomas Talbot was Senate Clerk, and Thomas Chapman was Clerk of the House of Representatives. In December, the group drafted a constitution. It explicitly excluded lawyers, doctors, and preachers from running for elected positions in the legislation. When put to a vote, it was defeated, and so Franklin would continue to follow the North Carolina Constitution. On May 16th, 1785, the government-elect in Franklin submitted a petition for statehood. When put to a vote, 7 states voted in favor of Franklin becoming the 14th state. However, due to how the voting lines are drawn, the required 2/3 majority was not reached, and therefore the petition was denied. In June, the delegation met to figure out what options they had. They also put Joseph Harding in the position of Speaker of the House. Sevier wrote a letter to Ben Franklin trying to get his support. However, he did not respond favorably, writing, "I am sensible of the honor which your excellency and your council thereby do me. But being in Europe when your state was formed, I am too little acquainted with the circumstances to be able to offer you anything just now that may be of importance, since everything material that regards your welfare will doubtless have occurred to yourselves. I will endeavor to inform myself more perfectly of your affairs by inquiring and searching the records of Congress, and if anything should occur to me that I think may be useful to you, you shall hear from me thereupon." Franklin began operating as an independent republic after the failed statehood petition. They also changed the capital city from Jonesboro to Greenville. The first government meeting in Greenville happened in December of 1785. At this meeting, they adopted a permanent constitution called the Holston's Constitution, and it was very close to the North Carolina Constitution. At this meeting, a proposal was made to commission a state flag, though no design was ever created. They began establishing courts, incorporated new counties, and fixed taxes and officials' salaries. Pretty standard operating procedure, but there were some differences. The main one being that the currency accepted was everything. The official economic system in Franklin was bartering. Common items of trade were tobacco, cotton, apple brandy, and animal skins. All official currency was accepted as well, which was the federal currency we know today, but they also accepted all foreign currencies as well. A 2-year tax reprieve was created for all citizens, called Franklinites, as well. Due to the acceptance of all of these different forms of currency, citizens were becoming incredibly confused when it came to acquiring goods. The start of the downfall of Franklin began in 1786, when several important residents and supporters of Franklin withdrew their support and began advocating to be reclaimed by North Carolina. North Carolina, for their part, offered to waive back taxes if Franklin rejoined the state. The offer was rejected in 1787, so North Carolina sent their troops. In charge was Colonel John Tipton. The goal was not initially to forcibly retake the state. Instead, Tipton established new courts, jails, and a government in Jonesboro. This meant that the 2 administrations were competing directly. The citizens of Franklin ignored, in part, the new infrastructure and began trying to expand their territory west through the theft of native land. In September of 1787, the Franklin government would meet for the last time, unbeknownst to them. Loyalty began to falter, and in February 1788, it came to a head. North Carolina Sheriff Jonathan Pugh was ordered to seize all property belonging to John Seaver to settle tax debts that North Carolina asserted he owed. Seaver did not take this lying down, and on February 27th, he took 100 men to Tipton's house to retrieve his property. Tipton received equivalent forces from Colonel George Maxwell. Now, the fight lasted about 10 minutes, at which point Sevier and his men retreated. Men were wounded on both sides, but only 3 men lost their lives that day. The next month, Cherokee people began to attack settlements in Franklin. Sevier was desperate and sought help from the Spanish government. James White, a Spanish agent, tried to get Franklin placed under Spanish rule. North Carolina was well and truly opposed to foreign control of their territory. As a result, Sevier was arrested in August, though his supporters had him freed very quickly, and the group then retreated to Lesser Franklin. In February of 1789, Sevier and the rest of the supporters of the lost state turned themselves in and swore allegiance to North Carolina. Franklin collapsed entirely in early 1789, and North Carolina reclaimed their territory. Soon after, North Carolina once again offered up land to Congress, who accepted this time. The land became the Southwest Territory, what is now Tennessee. Sevier was elected to Congress as the territory representative in 1790 and became the first governor of Tennessee in 1796. And that is all that I have for you today. That one wasn't too bad, and very little death. Only 3 men lost their lives, which isn't actually that bad when you consider, like, the fighting, although, is it because they just had really bad aim, or, like, how did only 3 men die? Probably not the right question to be asking. No, I thought that one was really interesting. And like not a lot of like lives lost. And I was surprised there was so much support. Like they got more than half of the states to vote yes, they wanted a state, which is why I will never understand how the voting lines work, which I'm not going to say that it should have been a state, because what would have happened if they did become a state and like their whole thing was bartering, because they couldn't like exchange with other states because other states weren't accepting bartering. I want to know how that would work out, because if it was its own state, would that mean that they actually couldn't change the currency accepted to bartering? You know, I'm gonna ask this question on Ask a Historian on Reddit, and if I do that, I will link whatever answers I get in the comments. Not in the comments, in the description box. I'm all over the place today, I'm sorry. I did promise though that I would give an update. I gave an update yesterday, so if you want a little bit longer of an update, go check out the end of that video. But I had a very bad drug reaction, technically mild anaphylaxis, to a new medication. I'm obviously not taking that anymore. So I was completely incapacitated for 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday. So I took a little break because my body needed it. The other thing is that I have a second channel now, Everything Else Ellie, which is going to be a lot more me and less Anderson. Which if you didn't know, that's his full first name. It's not Andrew. It's Andy's not his real name. It's Anderson. So it's gonna be more like my stuff. But I have 2 series there that I specifically want a new channel for. I'm going to be moving stuff like my gaming content to this other channel, and just stuff that like I don't feel fits this channel. So like my gaming content, if I want to do any DIYs, if I want to do any like tell you guys a story or something about my life that, you know, it just doesn't really fit here. And then the 2 actual series that I've wanted to put out for a while now and work on is one is about Grimm fairy tales versus modern day retellings, just kind of going like through the differences, what the original was, what it is now, and how different they are. So that's a series that I want to do. I'm calling it a podcast in my scripting. Not really podcast, I guess it could be. But the other one is a true crime series that is entirely fabricated. I want to make that very clear. It is fake, which is why I want to put it on a separate channel. Because I don't want people to think that I am trying to make entertainment or fake stories about real people. I think that I want that very separate. So my true crime content with the real stories and real people will stay here on this channel. And then on the second channel, I will have a serial killer series, but it starts with a C, serial with the C, so serial. And I have behind this chair, there is a map of serial killers, again with a C. And I'll put that on the screen. It is entirely made up of literally just using the serial branding as like criminal names, like the Lucky Charmer, Cookie Crisp Crawler, stuff like that. And I've wanted to for a while make made up stories based on those things. I've so far created a murder mystery. I've had AI create another story, just kind of play around with that. But I just want to present those to you and make sure that you guys know that they are not real. So if you're interested in content like that, that will be on the second channel. Did I say Everything Else Ellie will also be in the description box. But yeah, that is fake. I just want you to go over there and see it and not think that it is real. I'm not making fun of anything. I'm not trying to make light of any real people's stories. This is all fake. And so it's going to be stuff that I have personally created. The first video on it in that series will be one that I wrote myself, a murder mystery, so please don't go too hard on me. And then other stuff will be like if my sibling decides to write something for me, or my family, or my friends, or AI, stuff like that where it's 100% fake. I just want you guys to know, again, 100% fake. I put it there, but there's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I've been playing with it, and so yeah, I've created a new channel for that. And then if you guys want to see any more of that, also if I take any trips, which I actually will be taking 3 trips technically this year, and so if I do any like vlog style stuff or anything like that, it'll be on that channel. And there's that. If you guys want to go and subscribe to that, first thing up should probably be a gaming video. So, yeah, but I feel like I've been rambling a lot. So I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.